Okay, good evening. I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting of the Common Council. It is March 9th, 2021 at 7 p.m. The notices have been mailed and posted. This meeting is being held both in person and via remote conferencing, so welcome everyone. We'll continue with the roll call. Joanne, can you do the roll or do you want me to do it?
Oh, I can do it. Thank you, Kim. Mayor Kim Smith.
Here.
Tom Smith.
Here.
Jim Olson. Dan Stevens. Diane Wolf.
Here.
Stephen Knott.
Present.
Carrie Burmaster.
Here. Thank you very much. We'll continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3, the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees, harassment-free forum. The City Council and subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, insults, threats of violence, or for the use of council or committee as a forum for politics. Sufficient warnings may be given by the Sergeant at Arms at any time during the remarks, and in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum heretofore set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 3 is public input. Anyone who would like to, that's item 4. Anyone that would like to address the Common Council, please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone who would like to address the council? Okay. We have an in-person person who will go first. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Park Hutter. I'm the pastor at Onalaska United Methodist Church, your backyard neighbor at 212 4th Avenue North here in Onalaska, Wisconsin. And on behalf of the faith communities here in Onalaska, I bring you greetings. I wanted to share a piece of scripture tonight that is probably the only part of the Bible to crack the pop charts. This is from Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every matter under the heavens, turn, turn, turn. The birds did that better, but I think with the weather today, we're all getting the itch for spring, and as we're starting to see hope at the end of the COVID pandemic, there are a lot of seasons that are turning right now. We do our community dinner where we serve free meals on the same evening that you do your council meetings. Last month, I was standing out there for an hour and it was 20 below. And tonight I got to stand out there for an hour and it was much nicer. And it was such a delight. We served about 150 meals tonight, and some people came through and just took their meals over and picnicked in our backyard, and I got to see people just out walking their dogs, and it was just so nice to see people again. And I think that's something we can give thanks for and something to look forward to. And I, for one, am grateful that we live in a town and a community where we have good sidewalks and we have safe communities and where people are good neighbors. So I'm going to offer a brief prayer. If you would like to participate, you're welcome. And if you would like to not participate, that's fine as well, obviously. God, we give you thanks for the changing of seasons. We know that after winter, there is always spring, and that we can look forward to summer as well. And sometimes in March, we get all of those, and sometimes you mix them up some more. So we'll take what we get, but thank you for the blessing of this day. We also thank you that you have been with us through this season of COVID and the challenges that it has brought to us in leadership, in our business life, in our family life, in all aspects of our society. And we look forward to the day that we can relax once again, take off these masks and see each other face to face. We are grateful that there is hope in sight, that our community is getting vaccinated, and that we can look forward to putting this behind us. In the meantime, help us to remain patient with one another, remain dedicated to looking out for our neighbors and loving each other as you have called upon us to do. And we ask these things in your name. Amen. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have another in-person, and then we'll go online next. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Nick Balduzzi. I live in the Cross, but I have a property on Summers Day Lane. It's 857. I'm here about the sidewalk resolution that was passed last week. I'm hoping that you guys will vote it down of the approval. Reason being is mainly the Summers Day Lane street. Only 80% of the houses on there are built on right now. And the subdivision's been open, that street, for 13 years, except since 2015, about 75% of the houses have been built. So that's only the last 6 years we've seen progress in that area. I am hoping to build at the end of this year, but with the rising cost of construction, we've seen materials in our industry double in price, which has pushed many people, including myself, back at least 6 months in pushing for that. I'm hoping to build in fall, but I don't think I can do it by the start of this project, which will cost me about $6,000 to $7,000 extra. And concrete, which will then be destroyed, have to be removed and redone again come spring. So I'm asking that you guys turn this down and at least push it off a year, so that some of us that can save money this pandemic can at least save it without wasting material. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Amanda, can we go to your online person?
Grandview Estates, Chris, you have your hand up?
I do.
Please state your name and address, and then you may address the council.
Yes, my name is Christopher Meyer. My address is 1589 Madera Lane in Onalaska, Wisconsin. I do understand tonight is not necessarily an open meeting for our project, but I would like to thank everyone on the council for continued support for the Grandview Estates project, which is just east of the city of Onalaska. So far, we have had 100% support through all of the committee meetings, and I look forward to getting the same support tonight and in future meetings for annexation and for the zoning requirements. Just appreciate everybody, and this is a really good project for ourselves and the city of Onalaska, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council tonight?
Yes, I would like to address the council.
Please state your name and address.
My name is John Drake. My address is 150 Fairway Court, and I'm the owner of 843 Summers Day Lane in Green Coulee. I spoke at the Public Works hearing on March 2nd. I and another owner of property on the west side of Summers Day Lane presented reasons why we thought the board should not include the west side of Summers Day Lane in the current sidewalk assessment. And having heard the response of some of the board members, I continue to believe that the council is not being reasonable when it forces owners of empty lots on Summers Day Lane to pay thousands of dollars for sidewalks that will be severely damaged during earth removal and house construction on these hillside lots. Especially in view of the fact that there is already sidewalk on the east side of Summers Day Lane, something you don't see on far busier streets in Green Coulee, including Stonebridge Avenue and Green Coulee Road, which have sidewalk on only one side. At the hearing, the plat of the Savannah's Oak subdivision was repeatedly cited to justify the current assessment. So the day after the hearing, I showed my copy of the plat to the city engineer for him to explain where it indicated future sidewalk. And the city engineer couldn't find it on the plat, but assured me he would email me a series of plat notes that he has on file. I haven't received the notes after about a week, and the title company I consulted is not aware of any of these plat notes. So I'm still waiting for the city engineer to provide them, hopefully sometime before the sidewalk goes in. At the board meeting, I also heard how the west side of Summersday Lane needs sidewalk without delay to complete a circuit or loop to and from Green Coulee Road. Again, why the sidewalk on the east side of Summersday Lane is not sufficient for this loop wasn't made clear, nor the fact that the loop won't truly connect to sidewalk on Green Coulee Road because there is no sidewalk on the west side of Green Coulee Road to connect to. Finally, I'd like to address something the mayor said when she opposed Mr. Stephen Knott's motion to remove properties 9 and 10 from the assessment. The mayor said that if properties 9 and 10 were removed, she felt the owners of properties 11 and 12, and I'm the owner of 12, would be even more upset for not being removed. And I just want to say that feeling or assumption is not accurate, at least in my case. And it's also unfair to those other property owners on Summersday Lane, especially Dr. Von Weiss, who's been assessed over $13,000 for a sidewalk, still arguably to nowhere. Since the council is invoking its police power to impose this sidewalk assessment on objecting property owners, to not seem arbitrary, I would hope that it would explain better how the health, safety, and general welfare of the city make this step necessary. Most council members apparently don't see the need for a sidewalk in front of their own homes in the city of Onalaska. But over on the western frontier, so to speak, of Green Coulee, empty lot owners like me and new homeowners like Dr. Von Weiss are told that we have to have sidewalk put in this summer or else. And I just don't
That's
think
3
that's
minutes.
reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council this evening?
Yes, Jared White here.
Sir, please state
Uh,
your address.
Jared White, 275 Hickory Lane, Onalaska, Wisconsin. And I was just, as a developer in the area, I'm just reaching out to express my support of the Grandview Estates project. It's great to see Onalaska with growth in the residential sector. Just want to thank all you committee members for the open-mindedness. And it looks like, I've viewed the map and it looks like they had very favorable use of land compared to other areas that I've been at. So I hope you continue with your support. Thank you.
Sir? Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Second call for anyone else who would like to address the council. Third and final call, if anyone would like to address the council. I don't see or hear anyone, so I will close the public input portion of the meeting, and we will continue on to item 5, the public hearing. The public hearing is to consider adoption of a final resolution to vacate and discontinue a portion of Century Place located in section 29, township 17, range 7 west in the city of Onalaska, La Crosse County, Wisconsin. This resolution is addressed under the Plan Commission in the non-consent agenda item A11, but this is now the public hearing. I would like to open the public hearing and ask for people who would like to speak in favor of this final resolution. Second call, if anyone would like to speak in favor. Third and final call, if anyone would like to speak in favor of this resolution. I don't see or hear anyone, so I will now close that and open the public hearing for people who would like to speak against the resolution. Second call for anyone who would like to speak against. Third and final call for anyone who would like to speak against this resolution. I don't see or hear anyone, so I will now close the public hearing, and the council will be addressing it later in the agenda. Thank you. Item 6, report from the mayor. Item A, recognition of the City Financial Services Director Treasurer Fred Bueller for his 40th anniversary with the City of Onalaska. I just wanted to take, I know we don't all the time do this, but I did want to take a minute out because 40 years is a long time. I was thinking back to what it was like in the city of Onalaska 40 years ago. And I looked up and found that the average annual income for people was $16,000. The average new home was $43,000, and the price of gas was 59 cents a gallon. So the Apple Computer Company was founded right around near this time, not exactly. And also the classic film Rocky was released. So that's really taking it back, Fred. I also thought it was kind of interesting to note that it was also a time of somewhat political turmoil. It was near this time that Jimmy Carter beat out Gerald Ford in the presidential election. And some of you may remember, for sure Fred will, that Gerald Ford was the only US politician to serve as both vice president and president without actually having been elected to either position. He rose to his positions after the resignations of Spiro Agnew and Richard Nixon. In that election with Jimmy Carter, who was a peanut farmer and a governor, he was a political outsider, and at the time the nation was embroiled in political scandal, and the popular vote elected him with just 50.1% of the popular vote and 297 electoral votes. So 40 years is a long time, and a lot has changed, and apparently some things have not changed. But during all these years, Fred has consistently provided the city of Onalaska with solid financial practices, which have really enabled us as a city to consistently achieve a high bond rating and maintain taxpayer confidence. So thank you, Fred, for all your service to the city. Oh. It was the same time frame. I knew I'd have some trivia nuts here.
Political science.
The political science guy speaks out. So anyway.
So for the record, I was 7 at the time.
He remembers it well. I said approximately. So anyways, thank you, Fred. Appreciate it. Item B, recognition of city engineer Jared Holter for his 25th anniversary with the city of Onalaska. I didn't want to leave him out. He's also having a significant anniversary. And I was going to say that he was hired around the time as the engineer, around the time I was graduating high school, but time goes faster than it seems. And actually, I was here up in this area of the room at the time when Jared did become the city engineer. So I do remember it, and really had a good time working with him all these years. He's a solid engineer, and he's also shown a lot of good sense and leadership for our city. He's consistently prioritized maintaining our city assets, and he's definitely provided quality service for our community. So thank you, Jared, for your service. Okay, sorry I have so many things, but there's a lot going on. Item 7, recognition of the COVID-19 vaccination clinic at the Onalaska High School. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that educators from around La Crosse County are currently being vaccinated at our own Onalaska High School. We are providing some limited support for that at the city level. So it's really good news to have these educators vaccinated so that we can continue to keep the schools open and continue to have declining COVID cases. They're going to keep having days and times depending upon when they have vaccine availability. And we will continue to have, like everything with COVID, it will continue to emerge, and new information will be available for that. So thank you. And then also on item D, I wanted to recognize the area high school sports teams for their successful years. Give them a shout out to the students and coaches. You know, they've really overcome a lot this past year, and it was so refreshing to be able to experience vicariously the thrill of winning and the agony of defeat over these past few weeks. So congratulations and well done to all of our area athletes. Thank you. Then item E, ratification of the mayoral proclamation for emergency order 7. So emergency order 7 is basically just a cleanup and an update of the current emergency orders. If there's one thing we've learned this past year is that when it comes to COVID, things can change quickly. So while I would like to not have an emergency order in place, I do think it's in the best interest of our community if we do keep this emergency order number 7 in place. This order is asking for us to continue to practice social distancing whenever possible. And then also, it also is in support of our local businesses because we want to be able to respond quickly when business owners have some new or innovative ideas. And this emergency order gives us the capability of short-circuiting some of their requests rather than putting them through the sometimes lengthy city meeting cycle.
We need to make a motion to ratify this.
If you would like to ratify it, someone would have to make a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to ratify the mayoral proclamation for emergency order number 7.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Carrie Burmaster, seconded by Diane Wolf, to ratify the mayoral proclamation for emergency order number 7. Is there discussion? Alder Nott. Thank you, Alder Nott. Is there other discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing any other discussion. In that case, all in favor of emergency order number 7, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, so the motion carries 5-1. Thank you. Item F is Resolution 23-2021 to amend the City of Onalaska Resolution 20-2020. Again, Amanda prepared this to kind of clean up things, and it's your purview, I guess, if you want to change it or adopt it. So I'll turn it over to the council. Thank you. Alder Nott?
When I look at it, what that looks like that leaves in place are the first 3, therefore let it be resolved paragraphs remain. Is that correct? And then everything else is gone? Specifically, the ones that looks like are still in effect are that the Common Council of the City of Onalaska hereby determines that an emergency now exists, and the mayor and city administrator may take all reasonable and necessary steps to prevent exposure and spread. And then the last one is the mayor and city administrator and designees are to preserve peace and order and allow the city administrator to act in the interest of the community's health, safety, peace, welfare, and good order, including allowing, in addition to the mayor, the city administrator or his designee to be authorized signatory on behalf of the City of Onalaska during this declaration of emergency. It looks like those 3 are still in effect. Is that correct?
I'll let Amanda answer that question.
So those are currently in effect tonight. What this resolution does is remove those.
Okay.
And so it's removing 1, sub 1, 2, 3, 2, and 3 from the original 2020 resolution. And then the only change, the only addition is the be it further resolved that the city is waiving all payments from healthcare systems for city permitting that are related to the necessity of vaccination sites for the COVID-19 pandemic.
That's not how I read this. Says that in light of the progress made toward abatement of the COVID-19 emergency, the Common Council of the City of Onalaska hereby rescinds the following clauses of Resolution 20-2020. And the ones I just mentioned are not mentioned in here. These are the ones that all follow after those. What am I missing?
You'll have to give me 1 second. I don't have resolution 2020 in front of me.
Thinking it was in April. That's where I found it on the agenda minutes. If all of those are to be removed, it could just be a nice, clean statement that says, let it be resolved that because of the progress that Resolution 20-2020 is rescinded, and that's everything.
Well, she's looking that up. Just for the, I think the council knows this, but for the audience, we're just trying to keep these as streamlined as possible. And are trying to remove any emergency orders as soon as we can all agree that it's feasibly a good idea to do so, while still keeping the ones in place that we might need, so.
This does not remove the first one. Now therefore be it resolved that an emergency now exists. Be it further resolved that the Common Council hereby authorize and directs the mayor and city administrator working with federal, state, and local authorities to take all reasonable and necessary steps to prevent exposure to and/or the spread of COVID-19 coronavirus when the city, including but not limited to those duties specified within Chapter 9 of the city's municipal code and Chapter 323 of the Wisconsin statutes, and that this authorizes the mayor and city administrator and their designees to preserve peace and order and to allow the city administrator to act in the interest of the community's health, safety, peace, welfare, and good order, including allowing, in addition to the city, the administrator or his designee to be authorized signatory on behalf of this city. I don't believe that one was included.
Yeah, so I do have a problem then with this if they're going to stay that way, because what this says is that we will continue down the path that one or two individuals can determine and make commitments financially and otherwise for the city without involvement of the Common Council. And if the Common Council disagrees with them, then we have to have a special Common Council meeting and vote to rescind them, as opposed to voting to actually implement them or not using the normal government procedures that we should have. Kind of alludes to my previous comment earlier.
But Amanda, wasn't that removed? About the signature?
That, I believe, was missed related to
Okay.
the signature. Also, I would add, and Eric could answer this, I don't believe it's ever been used.
Okay, but we could amend this resolution to include removal of that, the signatory section.
Yeah.
Because it was our intention that it be removed, and thank you for catching that, Alder Knott. Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. To a large degree, you just stole my thunder. My recommendation would be if that was the intent, which I believe it was the intent, and again, as State Attorney mentioned, it's never been utilized. We don't need it. That it be added to the resolution be amended to include those sections.
So what would remain out of the original 20-2020 resolution? If if nothing's remaining, we can just say we're rescinding the resolution, right?
I guess, I believe the intent is just to remove the line related to the city administrator is designee to be an authorized signatory on behalf of the city, unless the administrator is simply proposing we rescind the emergency order.
We also have the one above that that says the mayor and the city minister may take all reasonable and necessary, and of course, those are very vague terms, all reasonable and necessary steps to prevent exposure and spread, which honestly, I mean, have we been doing that? We've been following what the county says, right? And I know the areas we're removing down below it, the ones that are actually on here are things we've done inside the city that we're actually rescinding right now.
Right, but I think that part, what you just mentioned, is the one that we wanted to keep in place because we don't know what's going to happen. It could all of a sudden get worse again, and then Eric would be able to have the authority to close City Hall or whatever it may be. We can't guess at this point. We know the variables.
What would preclude us to calling a special Common Council meeting and discussing that? Why do we have to go outside the normal governmental processes?
Council? Anyone else? Amanda?
I guess my one concern with completely removing an emergency order is we do have force majeure provisions in place related to the Omni Center. And that is what protects us in the event that we have to close the facility because we can't staff it related to quarantining or other issues. And so if we don't have an emergency in place, we would lose that protection legally.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry.
So we have in our contracts force majeure provisions that are tied to an emergency declared by the city as it relates to a pandemic. And so if we remove the emergency and we aren't able to staff the Omni Center due to COVID, especially quarantining staff, et cetera, then we lose that contractual protection.
Okay, so can we, I mean, I don't like the open-ended, anything that's reasonable and necessary, that one or two people get to take whatever steps they want. And once again, then we're into having to, if there's a disagreement with the common council, call a special common council to undo that. When the normal procedures is anything we want to do would come to the common council and we vote to do that.
Okay, Eric, you had something you wanted to say?
The other importance of having a declared emergency, though, is also the additional funding. If there are any assistance that comes from the federal government, again, it's generally to municipal governments or any governments that have a declared emergency.
I have trouble with that too. That's not the purpose of an emergency resolution, is to keep an open-ended possibility of getting other fund streams from other people. I don't, that's not the purpose behind it. It's to, again, it allows urgent intervention outside of normal processes due to time and safety constraints. And, you know, I just think that's a violation of the spirit of what an emergency order is. I mean, I'm still not convinced that we need to have any kind of emergency order, but certainly I do not like having a circumventing of the normal representative process that, you know, the alder people that are elected by the citizens of Onalaska actually don't have an initial voice potentially on things that are decided, if they're decided that they're reasonable and necessary, and we would have to actually find out about them, call a special common council meeting, and then see if we could get a majority vote to rescind it. That bothers me.
Okay, Amanda?
Sorry, I guess the one thing procedurally I would say to that is I understand that, but the way our ordinances and city government emergencies are structured, even if you rescinded this and, you know, to Mayor Kim's point, if something changed in the future, she has the authority to redeclare an emergency on her own. And we'd be right back here where we started without, you know, necessarily a special meeting. I mean, she could take that action. And so I don't know that we're also gaining anything by rescinding it either, if that makes sense. Because she still holds that power as mayor.
She would have to execute it, though. So, I mean, it does require that extra step, in which case the common council could come together and overturn that. So.
Okay, do any other counselors want to weigh in on this? Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. I hear both sides of it this evening. I guess there are times when I make my decisions based on past performance. There's a saying that says future behavior, past behavior is a pretty good predictor of future behavior. And to date, I think that those who have had the ability to make decisions on the council's behalf have done so wisely, and I don't think anything's been taken advantage of. And I continue to put my faith, trust, and confidence in those making those decisions on our behalf in times like this when we have emergency resolutions in place. And until I am proven otherwise, or I'm shown otherwise that I can't trust, I'm going to continue to trust the process that we have in place. So I will be supporting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Wolf. Alder Smith?
I agree with Diana. I think we should just leave it as is right now and support it. I mean, there's still a lot of unknowns and there's just a lot of, I mean, it looks like we're getting better and things are going, but there's still a lot of uncertainty and we're not completely out of the water. So I just think at this point, we should proceed with what we have. And when we feel there's a time when we can rescind it completely, then we do it. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Alder Smith. Alder Knott?
I do want to state that in no way were any of my comments intended to say I don't trust anybody. That's not the point at all. It's all about process in my mind, and that, and again, in government, process matters. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anybody saying that they have or might in the future abuse their authority. That's not the point here. I guess I'm going to at least make the amendment that, or a.
Your Honor, we still
motion
need an
that we
original motion.
amend the resolution to remove.
Hold on a second, Stephen.
We still need an original
We
motion.
haven't even had an
okay.
original motion.
Oh, that's
so
right. Okay.
If you just want to hold on that thought and then let Alder Stevens say something, then maybe we can make the motion.
I move to approve Resolution 20-2020. Oh, excuse me, I've got the wrong one. I move to approve Resolution 23-2021.
We can do it this way too.
I'll second that
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf, seconded by
on the table.
Alder Smith to approve Resolution 23-2021. And then now we can go back to discussion. Alder Knott, and then.
So I understand, though, it sounds like that there's a fair amount of agreement. I'm going to make a motion that we amend the resolution to remove the paragraph that states the mayor and city administrator and designees to preserve the peace and order and allow the city administrator to act in the interest of the community's health, safety, peace, welfare, and good order, including allowing, in addition to the mayor, the city administrator or his designee to be authorized signatory on behalf of the city of Onalaska during this declaration of emergency.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, so the amendment is actually to include in the rescinding. Is that correct? So in the items rescinded, we want to include the section that has the wording about the authorized signatory. And that was by Stephen Knott, seconded by Carrie Burmaster. Amanda, did I state that accurately enough? Okay. And then I believe it's Alder Stevens' turn.
I was just going to address some of the comments regarding the processes. And to me, it seems like it's almost 6 to 1 and half dozen to the other. If we, it sounds like there's some liability reasons and some contractual reasons why we would want to keep things as is. And in the event that council, it's part of the process that we can rescind a resolution if the mayor is overstepping her executive authority. And I have no doubt, based on this council, that if she abused her authority or we thought she was acting inappropriately, that we would. So whether it is shot down by a majority or approved by a majority, both of those are processes. It seems like what we have is working. Alder Knott, on the other hand, is not wrong. It's generally better if council approves something first, but these are strange times that we live in. Based off of the record of how we've navigated through COVID, to Alder Wolf's point, I don't see any cause for concern. And if concern arose, I think that we would have the ability to address it. So like Alder Smith and Alder Wolf, I will probably support this.
Thank you, Alder Stevens. Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. So Alder Knott, could you just confirm for me the language that you used for your amendment? Is that on page 2 of the original resolution, the 20-2020? Is that where you're pulling that language?
I just took my notes. I don't have the
It's
resolution.
the section that has rescind the signatory near the end of it.
It's immediately above the very first rescinding that is in 23-21. It's directly above the portion that says that the city
Okay.
administrator designates.
Paragraph on the second page of the original.
Yeah.
Okay, just one second. So.
You go to
the original one.
20-2020.
Oh, the 2020. Where, okay,
Top paragraph, second page.
And going back,
that's what I just want to confirm.
right, yeah,
It
going
was
back
our-
to the original, I'm
It was
sorry.
our intention to include that, and it was just an oversight because of the backwards wording.
To also include that will be rescinded.
Yes, and the amendment now states that.
Perfect.
So we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Okay, Alder Knott, sorry.
Just a little time back in history too. The purpose behind including that originally was especially specific to, since we had to basically shut down City Hall, that signatures for financial documents could be signed in a timely manner. And that necessity is no longer needed.
And actually was never needed, although we were prepared in the event.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Amanda, you're good? Eric, you're good? Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on the amendment, which includes that additional section. All those in favor of the amendment to include rescinding the additional section, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, back to the original resolution, Resolution 23-2021 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Alder Knott?
That's be my last comments, I promise. So, yeah, the addressing, again, very valid concerns, Dan, but the, I guess my argument would be that we have a standard in our city ordinances on how government is supposed to function under normal processes. And for 1 year now, we have circumvented those. And yes, this is also a process. Anything that we do that accomplishes anything is a process, but that's not the processes that are outlined in our ordinances on how our representative government in the city is supposed to function on a daily basis. The last thing I want to mention is that, yeah, it's going to be very strange. I made the motion. I voted in favor of the amendment, but I will overall be opposing this because I just don't see a need for any of it. But, yeah.
Thank you, Alder Knott, and thank you for your good points as well. All right, is the discussion concluded? We'll go ahead and vote. Please answer when your name is called.
Dan Stevens? Stephen Knott?
Nay.
Jim Olson? Tom Smith?
Aye.
Diane Wolf?
Aye.
Carrie Burmaster?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we'll continue then with recommendations for approval and/or possible action from the following committees, commissions, and boards. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Alder Knott?
Yes, and I'd like to remove item K on the concrete sidewalk.
Thank you. Any other items the council would like removed? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Alder Burmaster, seconded by Alder Olson to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The consent agenda has been approved. Moving on to the non-consent agenda, first we'll address item 8, a recap of the items pulled from the consent agenda. We just have one from the Board of Public Works, item K. This was approval of Resolution 18-2021, which was a final resolution regarding the assessments for concrete sidewalk and concrete apron at various locations. It was a recommendation of the Public Works Department to approve this resolution, but I'll now turn it over to the Common Council. Alder Knott.
So just one comment, sort of a question as well. I do want to say before that, even though that, you know, being on the Board of Public Works, we had a lot of discussion on that and the process works. And I'm going to support what the Board of Public Works recommended. However, we just had another individual bring up a situation that was very similar to a exception that the Board of Public Works approved. And that was a 1-year delay based upon a known construction date. And I assume as long as the contract hasn't actually been completed, that the sidewalk hasn't gone into place, that if somebody else has a similar situation, I think I heard one more tonight, where within the next year they're going to be constructing and they don't want to have to build 2 sidewalks, that they could present that to the next Board of Public Works, and we could potentially have a vote on whether or not to approve that as well. Is that correct?
Okay, so that was very valid. Is Jared on the line? Maybe Jared could address this.
And also, if I could just have a reminder that we need to make a motion before
Oh,
discussion.
sorry. I couldn't make a motion, but I turned it over to the council.
Make a motion that we approve Resolution 18-2021 regarding the assessments for concrete sidewalk and concrete apron in various locations.
I'll second that for discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith. And I was asking if Jared could weigh in on Alder Knott's comments.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Jared. The way the motion reads today, only the request that was received for the Board of Public Works was acted upon to give that homeowner until the spring of 2022 to install the sidewalk. All of the other sidewalks that are in the resolution tonight would be installed this summer as part of our 2021 miscellaneous concrete project to be completed by fall. We could, if the council would so direct, bring any further discussion back for the next meeting, but we did already have the public hearing. But if the council would so choose, I could take any comments I received and place them on the next Board of Public Works agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Alder Burmaster?
And I just have a question for Jared then. If we would intend to bring these back next month, would we be better if we delayed the approval of this resolution till that time?
This is Jared again. I guess that would be a question for Amanda, the city attorney, to see, how we would want to proceed with the assessments. If the assessments are approved through the final resolution, I would believe that the council could take further action to amend that final resolution, but I'd leave that up to the city attorney.
Amanda?
I would have to look into that.
She said she'll have to look it up.
Mayor, this is Jared again, if I can speak.
Yes, please.
I guess with that, the city engineering department will be bidding out the project for award at the next common council meeting. So if we would delay this resolution, it would not hurt the construction of the project. Just as a note on our sequence of events on how we're going to get the sidewalks installed. Thank you.
So you're saying that we could delay action on this item until the next council meeting?
That is correct. We would have a month where it would not delay any of our construction activities as part of the installation.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you. Perhaps a alternative to delaying it is, as Alder Knott pointed out, there's sort of been a precedent set that anyone that has a defined and proven construction project the next year could potentially present that to Jared between now and next month with whatever documentation they have showing that they do intend to build, and perhaps reach an agreement that if they don't build, they'll construct a sidewalk regardless next year without any further consideration. I think you could pass the resolution today with perhaps the amendments stating such, and then we can move forward with that today.
Thank you for that. And Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you stated previously that if the homeowners had started construction before the sidewalk crew comes along, they would not install the sidewalk if construction was underway. Is that correct?
That is correct. Our current policy is when the construction contract is let, it has the work included within it. Once we get that work scheduled through our contractor, which is usually approximately August of that year, if the house has been started and there's a foundation started on that house and we can see it there building the house, then the building permit, which requires the sidewalk to be installed, would act just as good as the resolution that we'd be passing tonight to get the sidewalk installed. So we would delay construction and have it installed with the house as a normal normal house, all the houses would be that are required to have sidewalk.
Thank you, Jared. Alder Stevens, and then we'll go to Amanda.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm not on the Board of Public Works Committee, but I read through the minutes after hearing the public input. And Jared, if you could clarify for me, is it the case where we have houses on either side and there's sidewalk there and then it stops at vacant lots? Or I've also heard the term essentially road sidewalk to nowhere. And if it's a case where it doesn't connect to anything, I guess I'm not seeing what the harm is in waiting a year. I mean, even if we budget for this on today's dollars and put the sidewalk in next year, regardless of, where they are at construction, I'm not sure if time is of the essence here, but I can see both sides, and generally speaking, I would support what the committee did, but I'd like to get a clear picture of what's on the ground.
Thank you, Alder Stevens. We'll go to Amanda and then Eric.
I had a question for Jared, though, if he could answer.
Okay.
So this is Jared again. The majority of these locations are infill locations with sidewalk on both sides. Vacant lots within either subdivisions or areas where we're ordering the sidewalk in. Generally, there's sidewalk on both ends of where these areas are. Some of these are double lots, so there's 2 lots in a row that are missing sidewalk currently. We do have another location that we are extending the sidewalk along Summersday Lane to get to the intersection, so it can be a spot where we can put the crosswalk at the intersection to make it a complete, what I call complete sidewalk system on the block. So, but the majority of them are vacant. Well, they're all, majority are vacant lots. There's a couple sites where there are existing homes.
So if a family is walking on the sidewalk in front of some houses, they would come to some vacant lots without a sidewalk, walk on the grass, and I think I read the comments that there was kind of a worn path that abuts a park, and then it would resume to sidewalk again? And that's what we want to do, is we want to infill that?
Yes.
Correct. The majority of these are infill. The one you're referring to on Rolling Oaks does have a worn footpath. The rest of them are infill lots where currently there's sidewalk for a house or 2 or 3, maybe even 5 houses, and then the sidewalk ends and then it picks up again at the next house that's built.
Thank you, Jared.
Okay, so let's hear from Amanda and then we'll go to Eric next.
Jared, did I hear you correctly that you said if they have an open building permit, you would delay with those properties?
Typically, what we have done in the past is they've had to start construction, actually physically started construction on the lot. We could also do it that if they had an active building permit, we could delay construction too if the council so chose. But currently, we make sure that they have started construction is what our past practice has been.
And Katie, just to confirm, if you pull a building permit, you need to start building within 1 year. Is that correct?
Katie is currently looking up the ordinance to ensure that that is correct. But I do believe that the building permit for residential property is only good for 2 years, I believe. So that is correct. So you'd have to have your house built within 2 years, or you have to get an extension to the building permit.
So that could be one, I guess, way that we could ensure that somebody intended to build within the next 12 months would be to allow them to pull a building permit, and in those instances, delay the sidewalk installation.
We're going to go to Eric next and then we can go to Alder Knott.
I believe, as correction, Jared said, building permits are good for 2 years, not 12 months. So that would extend that. As part of the conversation in Board of Public Works and outside of Board of Public Works, one of the issues is that there's never a good time, that there's always an excuse to delay a sidewalk. Right now, construction materials are costly right now. A year ago, could you get a crew or not, or what circumstances? There are effectively no good times to do so, which is why we end up with gaps in sidewalks for years and years. It's been 4 years, I think, since the last sidewalks were put in. And many of the sidewalks that are being put in now were also, on the list last year, but we also had stories about, well, it's going to be sold soon, we're going to start constructing soon, or what have you. So it's a tough decision to do, and it's one that is not pleasant to make, but a decision nonetheless, in my opinion, needs to be made one way or the other if we're going to have a viable, sidewalk program in the city where sidewalks generally connect, or not, because, I'm supportive of perhaps a 1 year. I think that makes some policy sense because why knowingly construct the same sidewalk twice? But at some point, there has to be a deadline, in my opinion. Otherwise, we're back here again next year and granting the same people another extension. And I think that's unfortunate. Also, to be clear, if living in a neighborhood that has sidewalks, it's, I don't know, especially on a day like today, but even when it's 20 below zero, the amount that the sidewalks are used by people of all ages in the community. Certainly kids to walk to the bus stop, or in summer walk to the park. Certainly seniors getting exercise in the neighborhoods, but also people, people of all ages walking their pets, walking their dogs, socializing as they can, friends taking the walk together. I mean, I think it's having a good sidewalk program in your community really adds to the quality of life. And when you have those gaps, you do put people at risk by having to walk, across the streets in areas that don't have sidewalks or crosswalks, or walk on the street for a period of time. So I'm certainly supportive of it. I do understand that you have a tough decision to make. I think the exceptions granted for 1 year make some sense, and I would be supportive of that, but I would hope that at some point then we kind of draw a deadline and stick to it.
Thank you. Before we go to Aldernot, let me ask if Katie did you confirm anything, Katie?
Katie did confirm that a building permit, once it is issued, you must start construction in 1 year, which is 12 months. We would have a little bit of difficulty if the homeowner, property owner did not have a building plan finalized in trying to associate a cost of that building permit, because it's based upon square footage, and or you might having your state plan approvals and other things you'd need to pull your building permit.
If we were thinking of making an amendment, what would you need to have the cutoff date be for people who had a building permit issued? To figure out about if they could put in a sidewalk or not. Okay, Aldernot?
So not everybody was in on the Board of Public Works, obviously. The one exception was a property owner who sent in a letter that outlined a actual plan for construction and specifically stated that they would have begun construction by the end of spring next year. And if not, they understood the sidewalk would go in anyway. So they had a plan with a finite date, and we literally went off that. So what we actually approved in the Board of Public Works is that on the first day of summer of 2022, if that property has not begun construction, we reserve the right to put the sidewalk in. So there is a finite date, and it's only about a year from now. I definitely do not support a 2-year delay. I think it needs to be based upon a plan with a set date within a year. And I'll wait to make a amendment until we hear from everybody else. So,
Thank you. Alder Stevens?
I was interested in making an amendment to this end. However, I wonder, based off some of the language I've heard, if we set a finite date of 1 year and then somebody were to take out a new building permit, would that stop the clock again? Or can we make we don't care what's going to happen on, July 1st, there's a sidewalk going in. So before I make an amendment, I think we should clarify that they can't just put this off for, 4 or 5 years based off of conveniently spaced building permits.
Thank you. Alder Wolf?
And thank you, Your Honor. And my question is kind of piggyback to Dan's, is that my concern is, if I heard staff correctly, once they pull a building permit, they have it's good for 2 years? Oh, it is 1 year, okay. Because I just wanted, so So yeah, if, that's my concern, that if we go ahead and they pull something by next spring, are we having to wait a whole nother year?
That was why I asked that question that Jared, I think, didn't understand, is like, we'd have to have a cutoff date. Like,
Right.
they would have to have their, if anyone who had their building permit pulled by a certain date could skip getting the sidewalk put in.
And
Was my idea, but I'm not sure I'm fine tuning that.
And if I could finish my thought too, is I think, being on board of Public Works, it's always talked about that sidewalk decisions, no one wants to pay for them, no one wants to shovel them, but everyone likes to use them because they're really great. To me, I always think of sidewalks connect us to one another. It makes a community more of a home. That's why I've always been in support of sidewalks. One of my concerns with the one on that got pulled off last week of Board of Public Works was the one on Rolling Oaks. It's next to a park. I think what we need to remember too is that a lot of these lots, they were sold over 15 years ago. We've been waiting for construction for many, many, many years. And the city typically has kind of a policy. I don't know if it's a written down policy or an unspoken policy, but we kind of run with once an addition has approximately 80% fill in, we order sidewalks in, because imagine you have 100 lots and 80 homes are built. So where are these people going to walk when 20 homes have chosen not to build yet, or 20 parcels? So that's why I continue to support sidewalks and punching them in the infill project, especially when they have been on the market for a long time. It's about continuing the intent of the area when sidewalks were first put in, so everyone can enjoy them instead of having kids going off to the street in the wintertime and they're on the sidewalk and they go in the street and back again. So that's why I will continue to support sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Wolf. I think Eric had something, and then we'll go to Alder Knott.
We're hearing 1 year delay. Keep in mind, if what we're saying is that we're gonna give people 1 year to decide, we don't have a sidewalk construction project in 2021. Right, and I would just go back to what Alder Knott had said earlier, one more time, to say that really the delay is 1 month. We are asking the council to approve the program a month from now at the council meeting, possibly with exceptions. One exception's already been granted, and we have requests potentially for some other, extensions of 1 year. I would suggest that if an amendment is made, it would be made in the language that Alder Knott used, which is between now and a month from now, a property owner may request an extension of 1 year by providing evidence that they intend to build and agree that they would construct the sidewalk regardless in a year. Whatever the status is in a year.
But it would have to actually be before Public Works, before the agendas go out. We couldn't wait a whole month for the homeowner. I think we want to be sympathetic, but we have to be meeting our timeline as well. And if they wait a month, they can't wait till the day of council to bring forward their request.
I'm looking up a date for the next Board of Public Works, and I'm going to make a motion. If somebody has a hand.
We do have 3 weeks. We do have 3 weeks this time in between council so we have an extra week this month.
The 10th?
April 6th.
6th? Okay, I will make a motion.
Amendment to the motion. And we have a motion on the.
Sorry, I will make an amendment that upon the passing of Resolution 19-20, no, that's finance. I got the wrong one. All right. 18-2021, that there will be a grace period for property owners to present a plan no later than 6 April in front of the Board of Public Works, for them to be considered by exception if they can convince the Board of Public Works that they will begin construction by no later than 20 June of 2022, which is the last day of spring.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Stephen Knott, seconded by Alder Stevens. And we'll let the city attorney have the first kick at it, and then we'll go from there over to that side of the room.
I guess I'm just wondering procedurally how you plan to do this, because the agenda would be out, it would be noticed at that point, because that's the night of the meeting. And so are you planning to hold essentially a public hearing that people could come in and make their
No,
requests. Otherwise, we would need it by the agenda deadline, which would be the week prior.
I'm sorry,
Otherwise, we would need it by the agenda deadline, which would be the week prior, or at the very
Okay.
latest, you could set it like Monday if you
no,
wanted
no, I think
the
that would,
agenda amended.
yeah, this is actually individual by exception property owners, the way I've got it here, putting in an exception request based upon construction.
Okay, we'll go over to Alder Burmaster.
I was just going to ask you if you would consider making the deadline March 31st, because that's the agenda deadline. So either the 30th would be Tuesday before, so Jared would have time to prepare. Might be a better day would be
I'll change,
30th.
I'll change my motion to what you're saying, March
30th.
March 30th, I'll change.
Alder Stevens, do you agree?
I have to question if we just have it be a public hearing, you could have it be April 6th. People could show up and present their proof and then it would carry over to council for the following week.
I think the idea is for them to work with staff and then staff to get it on the agenda for the Public Works. Like, so it would, staff would do the initial screening, get it on the agenda for Public Works. Public Works could,
Yeah, I don't have strong feelings either way. Whatever the council decides, I'm good.
well, you seconded the amendment. That's why I was.
I'll stand by that. But if somebody made a compelling case for the contrary, I would
So
send it.
I think if we turn it back into a public hearing, we are no longer doing it by exception. We're doing it for everybody, as opposed to, you need to show us that you're going to be able to construct and and we don't want to have you pay twice for the same sidewalk in 1 year. That's the whole point behind this.
I would counter that if they show up at the public hearing with proof that they were going to have construction, that should suffice.
Okay, let's go over this way and we'll come back around. So Alder Burmaster?
That was just my question to Amanda for clarification is, would it have to go back to a public hearing since we've already held a public hearing on this? Since we're just asking for exceptions, they've already been on the list.
Then I don't believe we would have to have a public hearing.
It could just be just an item on the agenda to take care of this without having that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure we need that public hearing.
Okay, Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. I will, as Chair of Board of Public Works this past year, I am going to strongly advocate that the March 30th deadline for submissions by Alder Burmaster earlier this evening be approved, be supported. We don't like surprises. You know, there's 5 people on that committee, on that board, and staff needs to prepare. Board members need to prepare going into that meeting instead of just showing up and what do we have before us? We turn the page. So in order to run a good meeting, we need to be prepared. So I would strongly advocate for the March 30th meeting. Thank you.
Alder Smith, did you want to add anything?
I was just going to say that I like the idea of giving people a chance to do an exception. Listening to the Board of Public Works online, I mean, there's some valid reasons why you wouldn't want to put a sidewalk in and then another less than a year build a house and tear it out, put another one in. It just doesn't make a lot of sense from if I was a homeowner, but I get both sides. So I like the idea of giving them a chance to at least build a case for an exception. So I will support that. That's what I was going to say.
Alder Olson, did you want to add anything? Alder Stevens?
I'm trying to stay away.
Okay. Alder Stevens?
No comment.
You're good? Okay, Alder Knott.
So have you changed your second then, or?
No, I never.
Oh, we got we have an amendment on the floor that anyone who would like to request an exception would have to get their information to staff by March 30th.
With a plan to begin construction no later than 20 June.
Correct. That's the amendment. Any other discussion on the amendment?
Of 2022.
The first day of spring in 2022.
First day of summer.
Oh, summer.
It's the last day of spring when they'd have to start construction, because the first day of summer, we'd reserve the right to begin constructing if they haven't.
June 2022. Construction. Okay, Alder Wolf.
So one last question, I think. So just want to confirm with staff, if that amendment passes this evening, June 2022, beginning of construction, are they going to be required still to put in a sidewalk before end of year 2022? Is a sidewalk, or now we're going back a whole nother year?
We would put that side, I mean, I'll ask Jared, but I'm assuming they'd start construction of the sidewalk as soon as they were done with their construction of their property. Or they could do it on their own while they're constructing the property, as long as it's coordinated with the.
I just want something noted in the record. When is that sidewalk going in? After they start, is it going to go, are we waiting 1 year, or are they going to have a whole nother year?
No, they won't have a whole nother year.
That's
How
what I
long
wanna
the
confirm.
homeowner would have to install the sidewalk
Right.
after that point. Eric, did you have something?
Effectively, and to speak to what Jared had mentioned already, the project would be to, the city basically put the sidewalks in for 2021 in the sidewalk program and bill the homeowners 2021. If the exceptions passes, that would give those homeowners till 2022 to begin construction. As Jared pointed out, though, that even on when those sidewalks are being put in, if there's no activity, they're going to be put in 2022 by the city. If, however, there is activity of construction, the homeowner is then responsible for putting the sidewalk in at their cost anyway. So it would not be put in by the city then. It would be, if there's construction work happening, the homeowner puts the sidewalk in.
Right, but when would they have to do it by is the
Like year.
question.
Jared, can I chime in?
Yes, Jared, please help
Oh,
us.
This is Jared. What I would suggest is if you give them till the June date of 2022 to start construction, it would be very difficult to go in and put the sidewalk in with the home under construction. So you're going to have to let the homeowner finish their construction. So the sidewalk may be in by fall of 2022 or maybe spring of 2023. Because it would be very difficult for the city to go in and do that work with the home under construction at that time. Once they've started construction, the whole site is torn up. There's equipment running around, then it would be very difficult. So then I think you would have to give them whatever time it takes for them to finish building their house.
But what recourse would we have if then 3 years later, there still wasn't a sidewalk, but the house was in place?
Well, if that's part of, they won't give them final occupancy on their house unless the sidewalk's installed.
Okay, that's what we needed to know. Thank you. Aldernaut, did that answer your question as well?
Yeah, I was just wanting to reiterate that that doesn't bother me, that there might be, several months delay to that, of course, because of the construction. The whole point of this is we're trying to avoid one or more of our citizens having to pay a substantial cost to put in a sidewalk in August just to have it torn up in April. That's the point of this.
And we do all agree on that. We're just trying to, we know that the sidewalk things always get complicated, so we're trying to think of every scenario. Okay, so we have the amendment on the floor. Let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. So the amendment passes. And then we're back to the original motion, which would be to approve Resolution 18-2021 as amended. Is there further discussion on that? Okay, not seeing any, so then please answer as your name is called.
Diane Wolf.
No.
Dan Stevens.
Aye.
Stephen Knott.
Aye.
Tom Smith.
Aye.
Carrie Burmaster.
Aye.
Jim Olson.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patience in the audience. We're now moving on to the non-consent, back to the non-consent agenda, item 9, Finance Committee, Alder Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Unless we'd rather talk about sidewalks for a little bit more. Where were we? So under item 9A, vouchers. The following is a list of monies expended since the last common council meeting dated February 9th of 2021. And the total is $1,720,245.61. I will make the motion for approval.
Motion by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Olson to approve. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Under item 9B, approval of resolution 19-2021, the state trust fund loan on the 2021 capital projects that are not eligible for general obligation bonds in the amount of $253,388. And I will make the motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Burmaster to approve Resolution 19-2021. Is there discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing any discussion. Please answer when your name is called.
Carrie Burmaster,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Jim Olson, Tom Smith,
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Resolution 19-2021 passes unanimously. Alder Stevens?
Under item 9C, approval of resolution 20-21, awarding the sale of $3,510,000 in general obligation corporate purpose bonds, and I will make that motion.
Motion by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Olson to approve Resolution 20-2021. Is there any discussion? Fred Bueller. Okay. Brad, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the city was out in the bond market this morning accepting bids on this bond issue. And I'm pleased to announce that the city received 5 bids. And they're very, very competitive interest rates. The low cost bidder in terms of low cost interest rate was Northland Securities with an interest rate of 1.631%. Now the second place bid was at 1.642%. So just slightly over 1/100th of a percentage point separates the lowest interest rate from the second place interest rate. And of the 5 bids received, the highest bid was 1.829%. So less than 0.2% from the low to the high. Very competitive bids received this morning. In terms of a summary, this is a 20-year bond issue, and it's funding all the projects eligible for bonding in the city's capital improvement program. The scheduled principal payment dates begin October 1st of 2022, and the final principal payment date is October 1st of 2040. Now there's a call feature beginning on October 1st of 2029. That means at the city's option, all of the principal that matures in 2030 and thereafter can be prepaid or refinanced beginning October 1st, 2029. Moody's assigned a AA2 bond rating to the city. That's no change from the prior rating that was assigned. That's exactly in line with our expectations. I've attached a complete rating report to the presentation document. This is the most current report that Moody's has outstanding on the city. And in that report, Moody's talks about the credit strengths of the city, which include its large and expanding tax base and its very strong operating revenues and liquidity. Included in this packet also is a detailed payment scenario. It outlines the existing debt service payments that the city has already committed to. In the boxed in area, you'll see the repayment structure for the state trust fund loan you just approved, the repayment structure for this bond issue, and the overall impact moving forward for levy supported debt payments of the city. But again, overall, a very attractive interest rate, 1.62%. That means on the financing here of $3,510,000, you're paying less than $660,000 of interest over a 20-year period. I'd be glad to go into more detail if you like or answer any questions.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, Brad. Does anybody have any questions? No one has any questions.
Wait, could you repeat the total amount of interest paid over that? Did you say?
Sure. It is $658,129.
It seems, am I hearing that right? Is that 650,000 on 3 million over 20 years?
Yeah, you're hearing that right. We are in a very low interest rate environment, and the city is able to take advantage of that.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve Resolution 20-2021. Is there any further discussion? If not, please answer when your name is called.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Jim Olson, Carrie Burmaster,
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in also, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, item 10, Administrative Committee.
Okay, there was a lot of discussion on this in your attachment is Resolution 16, 2021 to amend the City of Onalaska fee schedule as it relates to liquor license fees. If you read the attachment, basically due to COVID, you know, we are recommending that we extend basically discounted fees and that we change the fees to what's attached here in the amendment. Liquor license, Class B liquor, $50, Class B beer, $10, and Class C wine, $10. And also is a list of the appropriate businesses in Onalaska that would be impacted with these fee reductions. So I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve Resolution 16-2021. Motion was by Tom Smith, second was by Carrie Burmaster. Is there discussion? Alder Stevens?
I'll start. I recall when this came up on the agenda last year, I did vote against it then, and back then there was I feel more of a compelling reason why to support it, and that was that businesses were forced closed by the state statute or state order, and yet they still had to pay the fee. That's no longer the case. Moreover, I'm a little concerned that the appropriate time to present this item would have been at budget time last October. And during that time, at least COVID-19 was more prevalent than it is now. It was in a pre-vaccination era. I just on the news today, yesterday, there were 0 new cases in La Crosse County. So I see that the argument that they had last year was, you know, the businesses were really suffering because they could not even be open. And now it's just like, well, they've had a hard year. But there are a lot of businesses that have been adversely affected by COVID. Everyone that we would issue a permit to is negatively affected somehow. I chair the room tax committee, and I can tell you that the hotels have been devastated over the last year. Why not lower room tax? Well, we can't do that because we've already had to transfer in a lot of money to cover some of the expenses in the shortfall from the Omni Center. And I don't see where this is coming from. So the timing is a second issue. We came off of a really hard year where we had to have some staff reductions that I think the city administrator said we could not afford to do. I mean, we needed those people, but we couldn't afford to pay them. So now just a few months later, while things are pointing the right way, we're effectively subsidizing, you know, watering holes and country clubs off of taxpayer revenue. Where's that going to come from? Is it going to come from police or fire or parks or public works? It's not in the budget. Something is going to have to suffer to cover this. And then why are we picking the winners? Why is it the tavern industry? They've had it hard. Yes, I get that, but they're one business among many. They've been hit harder than most, but if we can afford to give money or to not have that fee schedule year after year, I'm going to suggest that we're taxing too much. Our fees are too much and we should permanently lower them. if we need that revenue to meet our budget, then we should not cancel or waive the fees. So it just kind of strikes me that this, the Onalaska Council has had a long history of conservatively budgeting and using sound fiscal practices. And this is a departure from that. I mean, we can wreck the budget and give money that we haven't budgeted for away to one specific group while others are hurting, or we can adhere to our conservative budgeting practices that we've had, but we can't do both. So I'm clearly not in favor of this.
Thank you. Alder Knott?
Very briefly, I agree with every point made by Alderman Stevens.
Alder Burmaster?
And why I agree with you, we should have done this at budget time. I think it would have been wiser to do it then. I do think the restaurants have suffered. I don't think they have recovered. I don't think they're in a position where they are making money. So I do think that this is something that we need to do this year, again, just this year, because there are special circumstances. We are not doing this all the time. But I think this council went on record last year thinking that this was important then. You didn't take care of any of the other fees for anybody else last year. You know, if you've got the complaint that other businesses are hurt, this is the one you addressed last year. Also, what would fill the hole here with the money that we are not going to be taking in, if we have one new license apply for a liquor license in the city, one new license that comes in, we have everything issued out, it will cost them $10,000. And that would fill that hole. So while you don't see, you know, where are we going to get this money? It's going to hurt everybody else. Every time we get a new liquor license in, we didn't budget for that $10,000 coming in either, and everybody else benefits from it. So I am going to, approve this because I think they need that help this year. And like you said, next year, will they need it? No. And next year we need to get on track. Thank you.
Hopefully not. Thank you, Alder Burmaster. Alder Smith?
I agree with Carrie. I support this too. We had a lot of discussion on this, and I do agree that, things are turning around. Things are getting better. But I can tell you that most of these restaurants are still in the red. I mean, yes, they're getting people back in, and they're starting to get filled in, 25%, 50% occupancy. But the last year, they haven't recovered, most of them, from those losses, and it's going to take quite a while. It's like any time when you have a loss, you just don't magically become profitable overnight. So we just think that as Onalaska supported businesses, we feel that it's definitely an opportunity to still help people that are still struggling, knowing that this is temporary and that this is not the way we want to continue. But I will support this.
Thank you, Alder Smith. Any other discussion? Okay, Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. I did not support this last year for a number of reasons, and I have even more reasons this year not to again. While I certainly am very sympathetic to the restaurant industry, I feel that I was voted by the taxpayers to represent them. I choose to apply the ordinances kind of equally across the board and not kind of pick and choose. For me personally, I am going to help these restaurants and these businesses, local businesses, by giving them my dollars, not city taxpayer dollars. This $14,000 plus is going to affect all departments in the city of Onalaska. I certainly don't, I'm not privy to the financial books of the restaurants, but so many parking lots are full. There's not a parking spot, which is hooray, I think that's fantastic. I had asked at A&J at the end, how was this going to be paid for? And my question wasn't answered. I look at cab companies. We have 6 cab companies that have pulled licenses. Granted, none of them are, their address is not in the city of Onalaska, but they all choose to do business in the city of Onalaska. Their fees were flat fees, $125. From what I understand, across the country, their business has been just absolutely decimated. We had 2 pawn shops. You know, we didn't reduce their fees. We have all these solicitors who come in to do door-to-door. None of those people, in fact, didn't we even shut them down? I don't think, did we even allow door-to-door? I think if I remember correctly. But anyway, you know, we're still expecting them to pay their fees, and they pretty much shut down when the mask order went in. What about the builders? You know, home builders, they've had such extremely high building fees. You know, the city hasn't gone ahead and gone on record to lower the HVAC permits, the electrical permits, the building permits, plumbing permits. So I agree with Alder Stevens as far as keeping on the conservative fiscal route that has gotten us here to this day. So I will not be supporting this resolution this evening. Thank you.
Okay, Alder Knott.
I did support this last year and was very vocal about supporting it last year. I just think that circumstances have changed.
Thank you. Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve Resolution 16-2021. Is there any other discussion? It is going to be because it's a resolution. Is discussion complete? Okay, please answer as your name is called.
Carrie Burmaster,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Nay.
Diane Wolf,
Nay.
Jim Olson, Tom Smith,
Aye.
Dan Stevens.
Nay.
We have a tie.
Looks like we have a tie. Well, I will cast my vote in favor of Resolution 16-2021. And I think that, you know, as a municipality, we have very limited ways that we can help our local businesses. And I think it's important for us to stand up and do that when we can. Alder Wolf.
Thank you. Could I get my question answered? I've asked it twice and I have yet to get an answer. Thank you. How is this going to be paid for? For those who are supporting it, do they have an answer? I mean, Alder Burmaster mentioned is there one on the landscape?
There's usually one on the landscape.
I don't go by usual.
If, in the case that there's not, I think is her point is where are we going to pull this from? We can't raise the levy over what was approved. Or we could pass the hat, I mean.
Eric?
Without any specific action, the decrease in revenue will show as just that, a lesser amount in revenue collected in the budget throughout the year. And any balancing required will again occur in January. As Alder Wolf pointed out, like every department will have a cost. I just point out that as we discussed last month with being able to have the reserves we put into the special accounts, every department is very cognizant of their responsibilities. And it's here, unlike other communities that I've been at, there isn't the race to spend every penny at the end of the year, knowing that the new reserves go to the bottom line to provide us with reserves so we get low borrowing costs, to provide equipment replacement funds so we can make purchases for equipment and not tax residents for that. That's where ultimately the balance will be reflected is overall the city's position when it comes to the final reconciliation come February.
Noted that we will be reminded of this often. Okay, thank you. Item 11, Plan Commission. Diane? Or wait.
Tom.
No, that's me, sorry. Because, okay. Item A, Resolution 20-2021, final resolution to vacate and discontinue a portion of Century Place, City of Onalaska, Wisconsin, 54650. It was a recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve Resolution 21-2021, and I'll turn it over to the council.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2021. Is right? 2021, yeah. Final resolution to vacate and discontinue a portion of Century Place, City of Onalaska, 54650.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Tom Smith, seconded by Carrie Burmaster to approve the resolution. Is there discussion? We have the motion on the floor already. Is there any discussion? I'm not seeing any. Please answer when your name is called.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Carrie Burmaster,
Aye.
Jim Olson.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 12, Park Recreation and Library Board. Alderperson Burmaster.
Thank you. Item number A is approval of an Omni Center sponsorship program. It was the pleasure of the Parks Recreation Library Board to approve this item, so I make a motion to approve the Omni Center sponsorship program.
We'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Burmaster, seconded by Alder Stevens to approve the Omni Center sponsorship program. Discussion, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. I asked that this be pulled off the consent and put on the non-consent after speaking with legal and Dan Wick in Parks. I would like to make an amendment, and that amendment is under option K. That should be asterisked. And the added language should be a separate independent contract would be required to be approved by council.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have an amendment by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Stevens, to add the wording as described.
However, I didn't second the amendment. I mean, I'm not against it. I believe that
You
was.
got Stevens confused with Steve.
Wait, Diane, I said the wrong, it's Dan Stevens not. Okay.
They sit right next to each other. That doesn't help.
Okay, the motion, the amendment was by Alder Wolf. The second to the amendment was by Alder Knott. And the amendment was to add the wording as described to option K. So is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay, so let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor of approving the amendment to add the additional wording, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, the amendment is passed. Now we're back to the original motion, which is to approve the sponsorship program. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of approving the program as amended, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Back to you, Carrie.
Okay, item number B is Resolution 22-2021, Governmental Responsibility Resolution for DNR Urban Non-Point Source and Stormwater Grants. This resolution did not go to the Parks and Recreation and Library Board, but it's being brought forward because there's a deadline to apply for this, for the buildup that's going to be happening down at the Great River Landing. So I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 22-2021.
Second.
Thank you. Resolution 22-2021. The motion to approve was by Alder Burmaster, seconded by Alder Wolf. Is there discussion? Okay, so the motion is to approve. Please answer when your name is called.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Jim Olson, Carrie Burmaster,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Tom Smith.
Aye.
Okay, resolution passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 13 is adjournment.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Jim Olson, seconded by Tom Smith to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The time is 8:38 and we are adjourned. Thank you.